everyone, and happy holidays! I apologize for my extended hiatus. Trying out for grad schools and the opera consumed all of my spare time, and drove me half insane. However, the horrors persist, but so do I. On that note, and with the Sonic 3 movie having just hit theaters, I wanted to talk about one of my favorite and arguably most slept-on Sonic characters. Metal Sonic has been a mainstay of the cast since 1993 and has appeared in almost everything in some capacity. Though I don't consider myself a Sonic lore expert, having made several mistakes in my last video, this silly little guy has a special place in my heart. I think he deserves his own little appreciation video. I mean, just look at him! Without further ado, I'm Wet Blanket, and on this channel I talk about things that I don't think get enough love in the commentary community. So, let's start a conversation. Like I said, I'm not a Sonic antiquarian, so I owe a lot of thanks to these videos in terms of giving me direction and context. They're going to be linked in the description, and I highly recommend them if you're as clueless as I am. In terms of origin, nearly everything Metal Sonic appears in across the franchise tells the same story. Metal was created to be Sonic's direct foil. He was created using data directly gathered from studying the Blue Hedgehog. He was programmed with all of Sonic's abilities and strengths, with the fact that he's a robot canceling out much of Sonic's earthly weaknesses, and, hypothetically, making Metal the stronger, more improved Sonic. However, his creator, Dr. Robotnik, programmed Metal with one other thing: Sonic's true thoughts and feelings. One of the main ways that this was shown was in a Sonic animated film released in the late 90s, when Metal sacrifices his life for Sonic and dies in a pit of lava. It's important to note that before this happens, Knuckles and Tails remarked that since Metal Sonic has Sonic's mental and emotional faculties, this is what the real Sonic would have done if he were in the same situation. Remember the fact that ultimately Metal Sonic's character does the same things that Sonic would do. He has Sonic's capacity for good. The way Robotnik incentivized Metal to hate Sonic is by programming him with the inability to believe that he is not the real Sonic. Metal believes that the flesh and blood Sonic is an impostor, and that he's the real one. This is why, despite having Sonic's capacity for good, he believes he must fight. In his mind, Sonic is the evil. I'm pretty sure you don't need me to tell you this, but instilling a mechanical body with large human emotions is never a good thing, especially when they're a doppelganger. There already exists plenty of media that tells us that, so let me tell you a little bit about impostor syndrome. The University of Cincinnati pretty much classifies impostor syndrome as an ongoing fear that someone has that they're going to be found out or unmasked as being incompetent or unable to replicate past successes. While I don't think this directly applies to Metal, there are a lot of things that can fit into this category. For example, Metal is utterly humiliated every time he loses to Sonic. I mean, think about all of the disappointment, poking and prodding, the violence that Metal faces every time he's beaten. He's in constant fear of both Robotnik and himself. He genuinely cannot compute the fact that he's not the real Sonic. This has led him to doing unspeakable things like physically ripping himself apart and kidnapping others to retrieve their data in Sonic Heroes.
I am the ultimate overlord, Metal Sonic. I am the real Sonic. Sonic, I was created for the sole purpose of destroying you, but I can never seem to defeat you. That is why I transform my own body with my own hands. That was the past. See me as I am, no longer afraid of anything.
These aren't things that Sonic would do, meaning that these are also against Metal's character. This just proves how deeply instilled the need to defeat the imposter and prove that he is the real one is. His entire sense of purpose relies on being the real Sonic. He desperately does not want to be found out. He does not want Robotnik to believe that he actually can't do it and give up on him entirely. Personally, I think there was always part of him that knew he isn't the real one, but it is constantly overridden by his programming. Metal is still a robot. I feel that all of these emotions are best exemplified in the comics, which I was famously wrong about.
If you want to just watch the shows, fine. If you want to just play the games, cool. If you want to just read the comics for some reason,
Okay, in my defense, that guy went a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and that's literally all I knew about the comics at that point in time. Anyway, this imposter syndrome is shown really well in the comics during the arc where Robotnik creates a fluid or serum that turns whatever living thing it touches into metal and machine. In this Archie comic iteration of the Sonic universe, Metal believes he is the real Sonic to the point where he doesn't even know he is a robot.
Okay, like he does know he's a robot, but he doesn't understand that he's not a living thing, if that makes any sense.
TikTok user Blue Deluxe was able to compile all of the frames in which he realizes that he is a machine and put them into one edit, so I'll stop yapping and just show you what happens. Thank you to Blue Deluxe for doing that. The link to the TikTok's going to be in my description, and I seriously wouldn't have been able to find all those frames if they weren't put into one place. But it's important to note that while he isn't always this way, Metal Sonic is a non-verbal character in the comic series. I swear, I could write an entire thesis on the importance and power of non-verbal characters in media. They are super important. But I feel like this makes the scene all the more impactful, especially this frame. It is at this moment where he realizes that he is a machine. The fluid didn't do anything at all. He is not alive, and he can't even say anything about it. You have to think, too, he must have been really desperate for answers. To even have touched the serum in the first place, like, if he was alive, he would have been rendered a shell of his former self. He was willing to put his life and autonomy on the line in exchange for a fleeting second where he would finally know the truth. Similar to Sonic Heroes, Metal Sonic is constantly sacrificing himself, even at points physically ripping himself apart and putting himself back together in order to just feel wanted. If you really think about it, he does all of these things to prove to himself that he still has a reason to be here. This all begs the question, if Sonic were in the same situation, would he do the same things too? The reason why Metal Sonic sticks out to me so much as a character is because unlike characters like Shadow, he wasn't created to be the ultimate life form, he was created to be Sonic. He constantly is running after something that he can never fully achieve, because even if Sonic were to die, Sonic already existed first, and will always have existed. This is why I get really confused when people are like, well, Shadow's like the second draft of what Metal was supposed to be. Because 1, wrong Robotnik, and 2, Shadow, while having imposter issues of his own, was at least created for the intention to be his own person, albeit also to primarily cure Maria. But Shadow wasn't created to be Maria in the same way that Metal was created to be Sonic. Metal isn't even a person. Hedgehog, whatever. I just can't get over how devastating it would be to not even be able to fulfill your primary purpose no matter how hard you try. Though they've both gone through that, I guess. Oh my goodness, at the end of the day, how does the Sonic team have the unique capabilities to create characters that have never known a day of comfort in their lives? I mean, these are animals, these are hedgehogs, and I'm like, feeling actual feeling. Like, this robot hedgehog has me on the brink of tears. I really don't understand. Like, you've got the whole thing about Tails being bullied within an inch of his life, like Knuckles watching his whole entire race be genocided, and Amy fighting a one-sided battle with the most emotionally unavailable situationship known to man. Nah, but for real, she deserves better, come on. Metal Sonic is another one of those characters who's a silly little guy on the outside, and he can remain a silly guy, granted you don't think about it too hard. But on this channel, we think about things too hard. Be sure to comment below if you enjoyed this video, or if I got something wrong. I appreciate all feedback. I hope we can have some good conversations about Metal Sonic, because I feel like he is just such a slept-on character that people don't really talk about enough. But anyway, yeah, thanks for watching.